According to the United Nations population estimate, Nigeria is home to more than 242 million people, with over half of its population under the age of 30. This presents a remarkable demographic advantage, a generation with the numerical strength to influence elections, shape governance, and determine the nation's future. However, for many young Nigerians, the question is no longer simply whether to vote, but whether their vote truly carry power, and whether that power can translate into meaningful and visible change. In this special feature, Grace Epe samples the opinions of young Nigerians on the future of elections, political participation, and the growing questions surrounding youth engagement in Nigeria's democratic process. In theory, this youthful population should represent one of the most formidable forces in Nigeria's democracy. However, a striking contradiction persists. A generation vast in size, yet increasingly skeptical about the political process designed to amplify its voice.
But I have already did so far for the last vote I did.
So you think say your votes no carry power?
No, you know we do anything now.
Yes, I used to think so, but as we speak, I can't say.
I always have my reservation about that, considering the fact that, at the end of the day, many Nigerians, whether you like it or not, we believe that our vote does not count.
Okay, have you gotten your PVC?
Yeah, I just registered recently.
Okay, so that means you're going to be voting the incoming.
Definitely, yeah, I will, because this is my first time of voting, and I'm going definitely to cast my votes. I am positive that my votes counts.
Your votes, they carry power.
My vote, they carry power. If you know they carry power now, there will be no election now.
Happy?
Yes, now, if our votes know they count, there's no reason for any election anywhere in the world now, not even in Nigeria.
Though youth, we normally believe that our vote don't count, but I just have the belief that INEC will do the right thing this time.
Across communities and public spaces, opinions among young Nigerians remain sharply divided. While some express confidence that their votes still carry significance and can influence electoral outcomes, others speak from a place of doubt, shaped by previous experiences and diminishing trust in the system. Consequently, what emerges is not a unified position, but a complex and evolving conversation about participation, representation, and political relevance. Meanwhile, this conversation extends far beyond the streets. It continues in digital spaces, faster, louder, and often more unfiltered. Across social media platforms, young Nigerians are actively shaping discussions ahead of future elections. Expressions of frustration, political fatigue, skepticism, and cautious optimism compete for attention in real time, exposing how deeply trust in the system has fractured. However, beyond the voices and the posts, the numbers paint a sad picture. In these spaces, democracy is not distant, it is debated in real time, in short messages, comments, and reactions that reveal how deeply divided trust has become. Yet, beneath both street and online conversations lies a clearer pattern, one the statistics begin to expose. According to the Independent National Electoral Commission, more than 37 million young Nigerians between the ages of 18 and 34 registered to vote ahead of the 2023 general elections, accounting for nearly 40% of the country's 93.4 million registered voters. Yet, Overall voter turnout fell to a historic low of around 27%, with young people forming the largest segment of the electorate. The disproportionately low participation highlighted a significant gap between registration and actual voting, a gap rooted in issues of trust, access, and perceived impact.
Many didn't show up.
Yes.
I didn't mean on Sunday. I was part of the few who social media pressured to actually show up for the last election.
Okay.
I've had my voters stand for a few years, but that was the first time I was voting because I wanted to make a change, right? But I believe a lot of people I know that didn't come out was their major reasons were distrust in the system. So people no longer believe in the electoral process to be fair. And it all comes down to at the end of the day, there's no difference, and my vote doesn't count and all of that, which is not actually true. Yes, there are hiccups, there might be rigging and all of that,
Yeah.
but most people were either battling with survival, like the economic issues. Some people could not transfer or travel for their votes in their constituencies and all of that. And those who could, many, they no longer believe in the system. So I feel there's a distrust in the electoral process that actually did not make a lot of people come out to vote.
For many young Nigerians, participation extends beyond awareness. Rather, it is rooted in confidence in the fairness, transparency, and credibility of the electoral process. Without this fundamental assurance, democratic participation inevitably becomes uncertain. More importantly, beyond questions of trust lies an even deeper concern: belief in impact. For many young people, the issue is no longer whether voting is important. The real question is whether that importance can produce tangible outcomes and meaningful change.
I honestly feel that we do understand the power in our votes, but I think one of the major gaps right now is in our agency. So I understand that, my vote does count, it does carry some power, but do I have the conviction, that makes me believe, with the power in my vote, it can actually translate into practical change? I think that's where some of us are losing faith because, some of us already understand at this point that if my power didn't carry any votes, it's already be trapped by it. And they are lying with what they used to buy it as little as whatever they live on the streets, right? But do we have the conviction right now? It's something about agency right now. Do I have the conviction? Do I actually believe that the power in that will translate into practical change that we want to see? And that's a very major part. If we can't get past it, I don't think we can stop these conversations anytime soon.
Beyond elections and participation, another major concern is the level of awareness of Nigerians on policies designed to support youth inclusion and development. Most often than not, civic engagement begins and ends at election periods, while broader frameworks that shape youth participation remain largely unfamiliar. One such framework is a national youth policy created to guide youth development, inclusion, and engagement in national life. In response to growing concerns about relevance and implementation, the Federal Ministry of Youth Development has been spearheading nationwide zonal consultations and stakeholder dialogues aimed at reviewing and updating the policy to reflect current realities and emerging youth needs. Although awareness of its existence remains low among young Nigerians.
So on awareness, honestly, if you and when I mean if you and usually referring to like minority or young people understand or even are aware of the policies that exist. So for instance, currently the national the Federal Ministry of Youth is, reviewing the youth policy, how many of us are aware? How many of us have even seen the framework? And if you're aware about it, how many people have gone further to look at the provisions of that framework? So that framework talks about, it covers governance, covers jobs, covers governance, and the place of youth in attaining collaborations and partnerships. It talks about rights, peace, security of young persons. How many of us are aware? How many of us are going through? Because if we're not first aware of what the ministry is offering, what the federal government rather is offering us or planning to do for us, how are we able to participate, to contribute, to say, oh, this is what I feel entitled to? How do I make sure that is manifested in terms of implementation? How are we coming together to ensure accountability and fidelity of implementation? How are we building, organizing to ensure that we are monitoring and seeing what's happening from the place of, they're currently reviewing it. Last month there was a youth policy dialogue that was put together by the Legislative Leadership Initiative in collaboration with the National Assembly Library Trust Fund. How many of us were even aware that conversation happened? So I'm aware because I'm a fellow alumni and I happen to be one of the rapporteurs for the program. But how many of us were in that room? And of those who were there, how many had seen the framework? How many were conversant with it? And how many had opinions as to shaping it? We're able to discuss it, provide solutions, look at, poke some holes in some of the areas and then say, well, we appreciate what you're trying to do and this is one of the recommendations that we have. But those of us who represented the rest of Nigeria in this very, very tight. And that's very good. We need to do that, knowing what we should do. We need to go out there because they cannot come and spoon feed us some of these things. But we need to, the same way that we look for information about scores, about Grammy Awards, that's the same energy and the same passion we should be using to, okay, what's the ministry doing? Exactly. What ministries are in town? What is happening now? What are state and local governments doing at this time? Okay. How much of that consensus and how are we contributing to it happening?
Nonetheless, one reality remains undeniable. The numerical strength of Nigeria's youth population continues to place them at the center of the country's political future. Indeed, every election cycle, political transition, and governance outcome is significantly influenced by the decisions young people make or choose not to make. Within political circles, this influence is widely acknowledged.
That demography has an overwhelming power to shape who gets elected, how elections are conducted, and the outcome of every election. That's the power the youth demography holds in this country.
Alongside this recognition comes another persistent challenge: unity. While young Nigerians possess considerable strength in numbers, translating that strength into collective action has often proven difficult. Nevertheless, many observers agree that whenever young people mobilize around a common purpose, their influence becomes immediate, visible, and far-reaching.
Coming together is a challenge. Then if we are opportune to come together, the impact we can make is great, huge. It has a lot of influence on the outcome of leadership. Even though we are advocates of youth in leadership, youth in governance, and we strongly believe that young people has a lot to offer if given the opportunity.
Furthermore, a growing number of young Nigerians insist that participation must be accompanied by accountability. Beyond simply casting their vote, many now demand responsive leadership, transparent governance, and leaders who remain accountable long after elections have been won.
It's high time for us to come and just be having only a voting right, and after when we vote, we are no longer relevant as far as anything is concerned. So that is why we want. So yes, we will go out all out and vote for the leaders, but of course we have to demand accountability. When we send you to represent us in the government, in politics, then you should be accountable and responsible for your action and inaction.
As the next election draws close, we are reminded that democracy is shaped not just by those who lead, but also by those who choose to participate in it. However, The conversation shifts once again from what has been lost to what is still possible, from disengagement to potential re-engagement. Across streets, digital spaces, and political arenas, one question continues to echo in different forms: what happens next? That question also sits within the context of reforms aimed at widening political inclusion, like the Not Too Young to Run Act, a constitutional amendment bill passed into law by the Nigerian legislature and signed by the late President Muhammad Buhari on the 31st day of May 2018. The law reduced the age requirement for contesting elective offices in Nigeria, formally opening up the political space to younger aspirants and strengthening calls for greater youth representation and governance. Yet, beyond the legislation, the question remains how far this legal opening has translated into sustained political participation and visible leadership from young Nigerians. Because in every democracy, absence is never neutral. It always shapes direction. And when young people decide to show up, they do not simply take part in elections. They influence the outcome of history itself.